Okay, so we're talking about the legislative branch. And what we've done to this point is talk about kind of the makeup when they have elections, what happens when Congress convenes, okay, on January 3rd, of odd number years, okay? Last thing we talked about was waiting for the State of the Union address, and as you were walking out, I was talking about, depends on how popular the president is or how much power they have as to whether Congress is going to follow the president's lead, okay? If you haven't been paying attention, recently, President Biden has his BBB. Does anybody know what BBB stands for? Build Back Better. Okay, Build Back Better is what he's trying to get passed. Now, we know there were two parts to that. What? We had the infrastructure, okay, and the human infrastructure, right? Now this was 1.25 trillion dollars, and this one started at 3.3, is now, I heard 1.75, and then I heard back up to 2 trillion. Okay. With the human infrastructure bill, I think this is where you find a lot of the tax increases and changes to the tax code to try and pay for some of this stuff. I'm not sure how many tax changes were found in here, okay? But guys, listen, the next thing we're going to talk about just while I'm talking about that. So if you've seen President Biden's poll numbers recently, okay, then what you would term underwater, right? So his approval rating is under 50%. Yes, some polls I've seen as low as 38%, but generally between 38 and 48% is what you're seeing in the polls, okay, with his approval rating. So with midterm elections coming up less than a year from now, Democrats have to decide whether they want to attach themselves to a president whose polling numbers are underwater. Yes? Does this make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now, so that's kind of, will they follow the president's lead or not? Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is committees. What are we talking about? Committees. Committees. Okay. And you see those on page 77. You've got what are called standing committees. Okay. You can add those up. There's more in the House than there are in the Senate. Okay. But when you look at these committees, what standing committee means is permanent. These are permanent committees. They're standing. All right. Now, with these committees in the House, if you are a member of the House of Representatives, you have to serve on at least one of these committees. How many members are there in the House? Okay. In the Senate, you have to serve on at least two of these committees because there's fewer members. Yes? Okay. Now, how many members are on these committees overall? It varies. Okay, so with the committees, standing committees, you're going to have between 11 and 59 members on any of those various committees. Okay, now some of these committees are more popular than others. Okay, so like if you look at that and say, okay, I'm a member of the House, which committee would I want to be on? Now, when you think about that, Ron Estes represents the 4th District of Kansas, right? This area down here. Think about Wichita, the metro area, this part of the state. What committee on there might he want to be on?
Transportation. Economic and educational opportunity.
That's not a bad one. Do you know what committee he's on?
No.
Wait a minute.
Thank you. Look at the bottom of the page. Exactly. Ways and means to pay for things. Taxes. Okay, so he sits on the Ways and Means Committee. Now, who controls, does Ron Estes' party control Congress? The House? No. So you know what kind of say Ron Estes has on the Ways and Committee? Not much. So, listen, with these committees, one thing you have to pay attention to is that the chair person of each of these committees is of the majority party. And the majority party is going to have more members on this committee than the minority party. Okay, so say we take the House Agriculture Committee, okay, with me? And let's say there's 23 members. And the House is very closely divided. The Democrats don't have a big majority. What, 5 seats, okay? So how many of these are going to be Democrats? That's what it'll look like, okay? And the chair will be a what? A Democrat. Follow me? Okay, so the Democrats, in order to pass anything out of committee, they have the vote. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, majority vote. Okay, now, why do we have so many committees? Guys, there are literally every 2 years, close to 10,000 bills introduced into Congress. Now, does Ron Estes have time to read 400 or 10,000 bills over a 2-year period? No, and he's not an expert in every area. You know where he's an expert on? Ways and means, taxes, okay? So he may also serve on some subcommittees and so forth, which I'll talk about subcommittees shortly, okay? But you're dividing up the labor, right? So like you community coordinators and community coordinators delegate to the House captains, yes? And you have different groups of people that have different jobs, okay? So you split up the work. Now, this bill right here is 2,300 pages long. So this bill's probably been sent to many committees and several committees. If you go back to the Obamacare, it was 2,600 pages long. Nancy Pelosi sent that to 11 different committees to work on that bill, to study it, to write it, to rewrite it, to have hearings, so forth, okay? So what these committees do is divide up the labor, okay? Now, this is where most of the work gets done. You don't get a lot done when you have 435 people in the room, do you? It's hard to get anything done, okay? So this is where the real work gets done, okay? And I will go through those processes of how the committees work, okay? When we go through how a bill becomes a law, okay? So, yes, there's always an odd number on the committees. Okay, so that, yeah, you don't get tie votes. Right? And then if you look at these other committees that our representatives serve on, okay, as you can notice, 3 of the 4 House members are Republicans. Sharice Davids is a Democrat of the 3rd District. I might have my 2 and 3 mixed up here. I do. This is, what was she?
No, 3 is.
Yeah, I did it again.
Kansas City.
I did it again. 3 and 2. Sorry about that. Now, Does it make sense? Now, oh, wait. We're looking at, okay. So Roger Marshall's gone now. Roger Marshall's a senator now. All right, let's fix that in your book.
So who's gone?
Okay. See Roger Marshall? Okay. Move him up, scratch Pat Roberts out. He retired. Marshall replaced him. Did you lose your book? You're looking for it?
I don't have to find those, so.
Okay. Okay, so put Roger Marshall where Pat Roberts is. And the guy Tracy, anybody? Tracy starts with a G, represents the first, he's a black guy.
Herrera.
No, not Mexican. Tracy Gann? Somebody got Google on their phone?
It was on the book.
You just.
Tracy Gann is? No.
What did you call it?
First district, because I don't have Google.
Alright.
Huh?
What, Tracy,
Can you
what?
check on browser?
I do, but
First district.
Kansas, U.S. House. I'm saying, Tracy what? Man, not Gann. M-A-N-N. And he's an African American. Republican. He's not? Who's the black guy?
There is no black.
Black man.
Tracy Mann. All right. I thought he was black.
Black man is James,
But he's not from Kansas.
his own black house. It's true.
Okay.
Do you wanna know how old the black guy is? I looked him online. He's 81.
Like Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
Why are they real old?
And the majority leader is 82.
That's
Hoyer.
Steny Hoyer.
Yeah.
How old is Mitch McConnell?
McConnell is 79.
Youngster.
And Chuck Schumer's 70.
Who? Schumer 70? Gosh, I can't wait for that.
The minority leader and whip are both 56.
Scalise.
And McCarthy.
Okay.
You wrote it down there.
Young Bucks.
You ruled all classes, that'd be a
Okay. So what's the guy's name? Tracy Mann is the head of the first district. Okay. Yes, Republican. Okay.
That is special. When did they get fired?
So what?
It was
Is that still?
Wait, so what does Pat Roberts do?
Pat Roberts retired.
So is that still his, are the committees right then?
He's.
Huh?
So they get to retire whenever.
Well, he just didn't run for re-election.
Are all the committees right? Probably not.
Oh, it's like what the committees are called?
No, like.
Oh, no, they're probably not right. But I would venture to bet that Tracy Mann, and you can look this up, is on the agriculture committee. Yes? Now, here's the thing, guys, who gets to choose? How do you get placed on these committees?
You.
Who do you have to ask?
Minority leader, or your leader.
Your leadership. Okay, now, if your leadership likes you, you're gonna get on the committee you wanna get on. If you are a good boy or girl and vote with the leadership, you get on the committee you want. If you're a maverick, don't vote with the leadership and think with your own mind. You may not be on the committee you wanna be on. What you got? Thank you very much. Mans is on agriculture. Man is on agriculture and veterans affairs. Okay. And Roger Marshall, I'm not sure what committee he's on in the Senate. Pat Roberts has been in the Senate a long time, so he was on a bunch of committees. Now, so here's my point. Question. When they, like where they get expelled from a committee or, yeah, I don't know the proper term. Yeah. Okay, go back to the first page 77. Oh, okay. Because we're gonna talk about it. Okay, so you see the guy's name. Yeah, Tim Hulskamp. Okay, see that? He's crossed off. Now, Tim Hulskamp was elected back in like 2010. Okay? And he was representing the big one. All right? Now, this was a Tea Party type conservative, like very right-wing conservative. He said, I'm going to get elected to Congress and I'm going to go fix Washington, D.C. I'm going to stop letting them spend so much money and run up so much debt. Okay, now guys, I don't know if you know about this. Did you ever hear recently about the government shutting down because they didn't have funding? Okay, because they have to increase the debt limit, okay, in order to print more money, you have to increase the debt limit. Well, Tim Hulskamp, when he got to Congress and Republicans were in charge, John Boehner was the Speaker of the House, and Hulskamp's like said, no, man, I am not voting to increase the national debt again. I came here from Kansas to fix this. And Boehner said, look, man, you need to vote with the party on this. And Hulskamp said, no, I'm voting with my conscience. And then he started talking about it in public, how the Republican Party should be ashamed of themselves for increasing the debt like the Democrats do. Okay? And so guess what happened? John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, kicked Hulskamp off the Agriculture Committee. Okay? So when Hulskamp ran for re-election, his opponent, Roger Marshall, what do you think he did? He criticized Tim Hulskamp because he represents the 1st District of Kansas and isn't even on the Agriculture Committee. He can't play nice with others. You need somebody in Washington that can work with other people. And Roger Marshall defeated Tim Hulskamp, both Republicans. Okay? And then Pat Roberts dropped out of he decided not to run, and Dr. Marshall ran for the Senate seat and won. Okay? Because the Republican Party nominated him instead of that one dude that nobody likes. That was the Democrat. He defeated Chris Kobach in the primary. The Republican voters chose Marshall over Kobach because Kobach had lost to the governor, Laura Kelly. Okay, but Marshall did beat Barbara Bollier. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we remember all those commercials. Holy cow!
There were a lot.
They ran a bunch of commercials. They thought they had a chance at winning a Senate seat in Kansas. It didn't turn out that way. Okay. But it's worth a shot. I mean, they won the governorship. Why not try the Senate? So spend a lot of money. All that money could have gone a long way towards feeding hungry people and housing the homeless. But we're spending hundreds of $millions on campaigns. That's the liberal in me talking. So, what? Okay, so these committees, they're important, okay? But if you're in the minority, guys, you basically have no power, okay? You can scream and shout, you have no power, okay? All right, so these committees, you'll get to know this as time goes on. They have hearings, they have markup sessions, that they do the work, okay? And then they share with the whole House what their findings are. You understand? So that's kind of how that works. They report to the full House. All right, so back to the notes. All right, so underneath standing committees are smaller committees called subcommittees. Subcommittee. Now, guys, there's like 175 of these. Okay, so if we look at the House Ag Committee, the House Agriculture Committee could have maybe 3 subcommittees, like one on trade, imports and exports of agricultural goods, yes? How about one on environment? Dealing with things like pesticides, insecticides, and stuff like that. Yep. And what's the third one? Farmer Joe? Nutrition, yeah. Okay, so guess what? You're probably going to have to serve on several subcommittees, especially if you're in the Senate. Okay, now listen, this is where you start to become an expert on these issues. If you're in Congress for a few years, you start to, you read about these bills, you learn about them, you have experts come in and testify about this stuff, okay? And in fact, guys, these committees hire people, smart people, like you guys, like you go out and get a degree in something, say horticulture at K-State, you could apply for a job to be on the, the committee staff for the House Agriculture Committee. That's a job. So you would be advising the members of Congress over what legislation is good and which maybe not so good. Does that make sense? So they hire staffers to help them with that. This is not a political position, but one of as an advisory role. Okay? So they, all of these committees have staff that are not elected members. Okay? You have personal staff as a member of Congress, and then you have committee staff. Your personal staff does work for you. I mean, like, they'll write the bills and read the bills for you, so you don't have to. It's kind of like having a TA that, grades the papers for you, which I don't have. Subcommittee, okay? Any questions on the subcommittee? All right, then you have what are called select committees. Okay? Select committees. These are a special group that is set up for a specific purpose in a limited amount of time. So these will expire. So you ask members from either house, this could be a joint select committee, or it could be just in the House and the Senate. Let me give you some examples to make you understand a little bit, okay? In recent history, we've had the 9/11 Commission, which was a select committee to study and find out what happened on 9/11 and why we didn't see it coming, so we could prevent it from happening again, okay? Another one is the Watergate Committee, one that looked into what happened with President Nixon, okay? And right now, guys, there's a select committee on January 6th, on what happened at the Capitol on January 6th, to look into that, okay? And so these are not permanent, but set up for a specific purpose, okay? They tend not to be political in nature, okay? But Pelosi kicked off like 3 conservative Republicans off the January 6th committee. She said, no, you guys can't be on here. I don't think that's apolitical. I think that's partisan, okay, which should make you question the results of the committee. Yeah.
Are there select committees made for like focusing?
I don't know if they have one. They should, like, find out the origins of COVID, like where it came from, so we can prevent it from happening again. I don't know. I mean, we wouldn't know. The CIA. I know that, like, the Biden administration did an investigation and they didn't really come back with anything. So you know what the thing is, right? It's either from a bat, right, or from a lab, right? It's one of those two things. What do you think? You guys read about this stuff?
Probably came from a lab.
You read about it? Yeah. The deer. I've heard it being transferred to pets. So I know, I've read that there's at least one case where that has happened.
I'm just saying, they've probably been eating bats over there for a really long time. Really long time. It's not like this is the first bat they ever ate. They just let out COVID.
COVID, that,
The COVID bat.
born with COVID. So they didn't cook it.
It could start from a random bat, like Andrew said, like there could be a COVID bat because they do, like, the disease will mutate over time until it'll mutate until it can get the ability to jump from a bat to a human. So that's why they encourage vaccination, because it will get more time to mutate to jump. But bats didn't get vaccinated. So, okay.
Now, you guys know the common cold is a coronavirus. Yes? Okay. So the common cold always mutates. So that's why we've never got a cure for it, right? So like if current COVID-19 continues to mutate, we'll never have a cure for it. We will never have a cure for it. Okay, so like this Delta variant is having a different impact on people than the original, yes? Like, so you're seeing more young people get sick with the Delta variant, yes? Okay, so, yeah, so it's all kind of interesting. It would be nice to get to the bottom of it and find out, but I think there may be people, if it came from a lab, let's just talk conspiratorial. If it did come from a lab, do you think there are people in high places that would not want you to know that it actually came from a lab?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. If it came from a bat, then there's no reason for people to hide that, right? So why don't we know? Why can't we figure that out? And that makes you suspicious because we don't know. You know what I mean? Or at least they're not telling us. Hi.
What if it keeps?
Hang on. Oh, I mean, personal thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
personal opinion.
Can I guess what your personal opinion is?
Go.
Is it from a lab? Is that what you're-
Okay, so listen. Wuhan, China, the lab there is funded by the National Institutes of Health. Okay? The National Institutes of Health is funded by the CDC, which is controlled by whom?
That is.
Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci has testified in front of Congress several times. His biggest opponent on that committee, where he comes to testify, is Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky, who is a doctor. And he believes that Dr. Fauci has been lying. Do you guys know what gain of function means? Gain of function research means that you are trying to take an existing virus and change it to change its function, how it reacts in people or in animals. Okay? Fauci has denied that the National Institutes of Health have funded gain of function work at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. He has said that they did not do gain of function. But But the National Institutes of Health don't say that. Fauci says that. So Rand Paul, the senator, has been all over him about lying in front of Congress. They did fund gain of function research on this virus, which is dangerous, to see if they could get the virus to communicate or to migrate from human to human. And to do that, to increase that ability, is called gain of function. Yeah. We don't know specifically how this happened. Now, guys, why do we not know the details? Is because this is being done in communist China, where the government there doesn't have to tell us anything, and they don't. In fact, the Chinese had the sequencing of this virus way back at the beginning, December, January of 2020. And they did not share it with the rest of the world. President Trump, like him or not, pulled us out of, what's it called? The international, the World Health Organization. He pulled us out because the World Health Organization was not trying to hold China's feet to the fire and get the information about where this virus came from. Okay, now it started in Wuhan. There is a wet market where there are bats in Wuhan, China. There is a laboratory where they are studying these viruses. And some would claim doing gain of function research, trying to manipulate those viruses. Both are in Wuhan. Where did it come from? Where did this outbreak take place from? That's the question. We can't get that answer from the Chinese. How many people have died worldwide? Do you understand? Like this is like this could be one of the biggest scandals in the history of modern, in the history of the world. That if they created this virus in a lab and allowed it to leak out through infecting employees at the lab that went out into Wuhan, China, and began spreading it, and didn't stop people from leaving that city. China did not. And those people traveled to Italy, they traveled to the United States, they traveled all over the world. Guys, Chinese influence around the world is growing while ours is diminishing. I don't know if you're aware of this. In places like Africa and Central America and South America, the Chinese are getting their foothold in, where we are pulling back. Okay, now listen. My wife was in Italy in January of 2020. One of the guys she was traveling with got really sick and stayed in the hotel room for 3 days. She got in a car with the guy and they drove to Belgium from Italy. Now guys, there's a lot of Chinese in Italy right now. They're doing a lot of business in Italy. Okay, so people were traveling from China to Italy. And if you remember, Italy was you probably don't, but Italy was the worst country in the world at the beginning. Okay, and they have a lot of people coming in and out of China. Okay, so this dude that my wife was traveling with probably had it. Okay, now she didn't get it until the summer. My wife got it in, what, July? July, yeah. So, and we think she got it at a graduation party. Because some other people at the graduation party got it too. But we didn't. We got negative tests and got the hell out of there. Went to Colorado, left my wife at home. She joined us after the quarantine. Well, maybe, I mean, like, she's in the basement. You know, I'm like, let's just give her the house. We'll leave. You know? She was cool with it. Yeah.
And she got to come.
Yeah. She got to spend a few days in Colorado. Okay, what are we talking about? I don't know if it is, though. You know what I mean, guys? Really, You don't, the media doesn't tell you. You have to dig for this stuff. And then you got to try and decipher between what is real and what is not. And that's the hard thing. Okay, I trust Senator Rand Paul. Okay, he's a medical doctor, and I trust him. And I think we have to be skeptical of our government. You can't just believe everything they say. Because Joe Biden and Dr. Fauci and Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi all said less than 6 months ago that mandating the vaccination is not something we should do or can do constitutionally. They all said that. And what is happening right now? People are being fired from their jobs for not getting vaccinated. Doctors, nurses, cops, border patrol, airline crews, pilots, all across this country. Okay? They said, we're not going to do that. You can't do that. Fauci said it. Go back and look it up. I can find it for you if you don't want to. Okay? Now, I'm not trying to be political here saying whether, well, actually, I will say this. I don't think the government has the power to force people to take the vaccination or fire them from their jobs. I don't think that's right. Okay? I'm vaccinated. If you don't want to get vaccinated, I ain't got a problem with you. If you want to get vaccinated, I got no problem with that. And I know everybody's got different opinions on that. Okay? I'm going to err on the side of freedom. And you may err on the side of safety or security. Okay? Yeah, it's a tough one, right? I mean, everybody's got different opinion. Everybody hears different things at home and so forth. I don't want to piss anybody off. Sorry if I did. You asked my opinion. Okay. All right. Let's talk about joint committees. Yeah. If you're on Twitter, follow Rand Paul, and you can look at some of the testimony that Dr. Fauci has given and so forth. Okay.
Are joint committees under select?
No, they're not under. None of these. The only thing that's under is subcommittees. These are separate and independent. Okay. Now, joint committee means members of both houses. Joint committee means members of both houses. So let me give you a couple examples of joint committees today. Joint committee on printing.
Money.
No, not money. Just printing. Joint committee on the Library of Congress. Okay? Well, neither one of these are political. You know what I mean? So they do joint committees, they're more efficient. They're more clerical in nature. It's just, hey, we've got to deal with this issue. Let's have a joint committee and we'll deal with this issue together. Both houses makes it more efficient. Joint being both houses. Good? I got one more. Conference committees. How much time we got?
2 minutes.
Are you freaking kidding me? You people.
For the Olympics.
Okay. House, Senate, okay? Human infrastructure, House, right? Nancy Pelosi gets a $2 trillion, okay, bill through the House. Anytime you're going to spend money, it's got to start where? In the House. That's the people's house. Anytime they're going to tax you, it's got to start where? In the House. Closest to the people. With me? Remember that. Now, so $2 trillion. Now you send it over to the Senate. And the senators was 50-50. And Joe Manchin from West Virginia and Kristen Sinema from Arizona said, no. That's way too much money. Okay, so the Senate passes a $1 trillion human infrastructure bill. High. Okay, now, you got two versions. Version 1, you got version 2. What do you send Biden?
Version 2.
No, you can't. Don't do that.
Excuse the interruption, but this is for students in 6th and 7th hour. Grades, do not get dressed out. Go directly to the weight room. No
version 1, version 2, and make a compromise, right? And they're gonna come up with version 3, which is gonna be what? 1.5, high. Yeah? High 1.5. Okay, now, can the conference committee send that to Biden? No. No. The exact same bill's got to go back to the House, back to the Senate, and it's got to be passed by both houses. Okay, that's what a conference committee is. It's different than the other committees. It only comes up in the passage of a bill. It reconciles two different versions into one. Yes? Almost every bill that becomes a law goes to conference committee. We will talk about this again. Don't worry. For each bill. Yeah.
So if it goes to the House and goes to Senate, it goes to conference, and then it goes back to the House, and then if it gets approved by like the House and approved by the Senate, and then is
Then
that
they
fine?
can send it to the president. Hey, listen, now, if you're on the conference committee, and let's say this was a tax bill, so it was in the House Ways and Means Committee to begin with Ron Estes. And now the tax bill went over to the Senate, and it was over there in the Budget Committee, and they meet. It's the same members of the committees that worked on it in the other houses. They've already worked on this bill. They're the ones that go to the conference committee.
But it's, yeah.
It's similar to a joint committee, but dealing with legislation. I'll talk about it again, I promise. When we go over how a bill becomes a law, conference committee is a huge part of that. Okay?
So on the topic of conspiracy,
Woo!
think about Bush and 9/11.
Absolutely not.
All right.
What do you think